In the previous video, I was taking a month from the user and using if statements to display some type of message. I want to talk about a switch statement, and a switch statement works pretty much the exact same as an if statement. It's just another way to make decisions for your programs. So for example, how I could create a switch statement is I use the word switch, and then I put in what variable I'm interested in making decisions for. So in my case, the user is giving me a month, and I'm storing it in this month variable. So I'm interested in making changes based on what the month is. Just like an if statement, you can open up a pair of brackets to create a block. And now we make our cases. What possible options are we expecting month to be? Well, for example, the first case, or in my if statement, I checked if it was January. So I could go case January. Now, January is text, so I'm using the quotations. And then I don't put a semicolon like you might think. I put a actual colon. And what do I want to happen if month happens to be January? Well, I'm just going to copy and paste that label output right here. Now, don't be alarmed. It looks like your switch statement is not working because of this red line. That's because every case needs a break statement. Break is just a fancy word for break out of this switch statement. I'll explain more about that later once we have some more cases. Let's make another case. I can make the case for February. So if the month happened to be February, I could change the text of my label to say, Happy Valentine's month. I don't know. And of course, every case needs its own break. So you can see how this works like an if statement. It just keeps things a little bit more organized, especially if you have a lot of different cases. So I would stick with the if statement when you're doing minimal cases. Maybe you're doing math with numbers. Switch statement works really well with a lot of strings or a lot of possible options that don't require any math. Let's do one more just for fun. I could do, in the case of February, I did February, March. I'll change the text to say, Happy St. Patty's Day, or month. I don't know. There we go. So the switch statement is just an alternative way to make conditions and make decisions based on what your program is. Let's see how this works. So if I type in January, the case January activates and I see Happy New Year. If I type in February, the February case happens and we get the Valentine's Day. Now, much like an if statement can have an else statement, which kind of acts as the fail-safe, kind of the default, so does a switch statement. So once you're done with your cases, it's not a bad idea to include a default statement such that if none of the other cases are met, something still happens. So I don't know what that month is. And break. So if it's not January, if it's not February, if it's not March, I'm going to say this. So I run my program. It's not January, it's just J. I don't know what that month is, but as soon as I type January, boom, Happy New Year. I erase everything, it goes back to not knowing what the month is, but as soon as I type February, boom, Happy Valentine's Day. And finally, MARC doesn't know what month that is, but it does know what March is. Happy St. Patty's month. So there's nothing you can't do with a switch statement that you can with an if statement, but it's just kind of a nicer way to do things when you have a lot of options in your program.